Hey, welcome back everybody. It's been about a month since my last poker vlog. I definitely did not intend to have such a long break in between vlogs. I wanted to get one out sooner, but after my last vlog, I ended up having several big losing sessions in a row. The result was that I had a bit of a hit to my confidence. I was questioning my play, and I think more than anything, I was feeling stressed about having to put all the time and effort into putting together vlogs that kind of compiled a series of losses. And so, I wasn't really excited about, having to put in so much effort for something that left me feeling so kind of underwhelmed. I mentioned in a previous vlog that, I'm not trying to hide my losses. I want to share my wins and losses, and that's why I am sharing that info now. I just couldn't get myself to put together a vlog that just kind of, that compiled those losses. So the result is that, altogether, I'm still up despite those losses. I had 3 losing sessions in a row. I was down from those sessions about $1,300. Like I said, I'm still up overall, but the $1,300 represents about a third of my prior winnings leading into those losing sessions. But before we go any further, I want to start just by sharing some of the bigger losing hands from those sessions that had me feeling pretty defeated.
The first hand I want to show is a PLO bomb pot. There's 8 players to the flop and the pot is $40. I'm dealt 10-7-7-3 with 3 hearts. The flop comes 2-8-7 with 2 spades on the top board and Queen-8 Jack rainbow on the bottom board. So I've got second set on the top board and a gut shot straight draw on the bottom board. However, I have to assume that my straight would not be best if a 9 showed on the board, so I'm really just playing for the top board at this point. I decide to check on the flop considering I'm only playing for one board and I want to fade another spade or any card completing a straight before committing to the pot. Too many people are unwilling to fold those types of hands in this game, and I'm more inclined to put on the pressure if I see a safe turn. Another player after me bets the pot, and 5 players call. The pot's now $280. The turn brings the ace of clubs on the top board, and the 6 of spades on the bottom board. A player goes all in for $210. Another player calls with his last $60. Considering the ace hasn't changed much, I decide to call as well, and I have both players covered. It turns out that 2 other players are interested as well, and they call behind. The pot's now $1,180. The river brings the 8 of spades on the top board and the 3 of diamonds on the bottom. I complete my boat on top, but I do have some concern that somebody has a boat with 8's fools somewhere out there. I'm committed for my last $60, so I push it in and get called by the only other player with chips left. The pot's now $1,300. If my hand's good on the top board, I stand to win $650 here. My opponents show Queen 5-5-4 with spades, Ace King 9-3 with spades, and Queen 10-9-2 with clubs and hearts. I'm ahead of all these players who either missed their flush draws on the top board or were playing for the bottom board. It looks like I'm winning the top board, but it turns out there's a player at the other end of the table who hadn't revealed their hand yet, and I cut the recording too short, unfortunately. He ends up tabling an 8 and a 2, which, while the 8 completed my boat, it also completed his, and his is better. Unfortunately, the half the pot I was hoping to win is going his way. For this next hand, I've got Ace-8 offsuit in middle position. The under-the-gun player straddles for $5 and 2 players call. I raise to 25 in hopes of taking it down, and it folds around to the player on my right, who oddly re-raises all in for $126. His play doesn't really make sense to me for a strong hand, and I feel like my hand could easily be a coin flip at worst. Given that, I end up going all in as well. I ask my opponent how many times he wants to run the board, and he requests to run it twice. It turns out my read was right about the strength of the opponent's hand, as he shows Ace-6 offsuit, and I've got him dominated. I've got a more than 75% chance of winning or chopping. On the first board, we see a flop of 8-4-4. I'm loving this flop. I've got a 93% chance of winning here. The turn brings the 7 of diamonds and he picks up a straight draw. The river unfortunately gives him a 5, bringing in a miracle backdoor straight.
Straight. Oh my God! I'll take it. I'll take it anywhere I can.
At this point, we're hoping that we win the second board. The second board ends up bringing a flop of Jack 9-3, and my opponent's only got an 11% chance of winning this board now. The turn, sadly, brings 6 of diamonds.
Wow. I'll take it. Jesus. I know I'm lucky as hell. That's rough.
Oh my God.
Completely. Well, made the right play.
He spikes his 6, and I'm dead to a 3-outer on the river. The river blanks, and I managed to lose both runouts as a 75% favorite. This last hand I want to share is a PLO bomb pot. I've got pocket 7s and pocket 6s with 2 spades. There's 8 players to the flop. The pot's $40. The flop brings 9-10 queen rainbow on top, not giving me much, and 6-4 ace with 2 diamonds on bottom, giving me middle set. I bet $25 with my set, figuring I'm only losing to a set of aces on that board. 3 players call, and the pot's now $140. The turn brings the 7 of clubs on top and the 8 of diamonds on bottom. I pick up a set on both boards now, and I end up betting out for $50. Looking back, I think a better play here would be to check. The set I picked up on the top board is certainly no good given the coordination of the board and likelihood of someone holding a straight. And even though I have second set on the bottom board, it's now downgraded to third set, and even more importantly, the turn card brought in the straight. Everyone calls my $50 bet. The pot's now $340. On the river, we see the queen of hearts on top and the 10 of spades on bottom. I pick up the boat on top, and I don't improve on bottom. I push all in for my last $115 as I'm committed to the pot. 2 players call, bringing the pot to $685. Given the way I played this hand on previous streets, I think I have to go with my hand. Looking back on it though, I'm not happy about my play on earlier streets throughout the hand. Given that hands containing Queen 10 and Queen 9 make a better boat on the top board, and several straights and bigger set options are possible on the bottom board, there's a good chance I'm not picking up either board. It turns out my assessment is correct, although not for the exact hands I was worried about. One of the players shows he's got pocket 9s for the bigger boat on top. Another player then shows he's got pocket 10s for an even bigger boat on top, and also managed to spike the case 10 on the river on the bottom board, giving him a bigger set there as well. You can hear my frustration at this point.
I got a boat and a set. Oh, I got a boat. You got a better boat than me.
I got a better boat on tops, better set on
Whoa. Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Hold on.
Rivered it.
Handful of queen, and on the bottom, yeah.
So, as I mentioned, those back-to-back-to-back losses right after starting my vlog definitely had me questioning whether trying to juggle playing poker while recording my hands was distracting me from focusing on my game. I ended up, after those 3 losing games, I played a few more sessions without recording just to kind of test the waters again, and I ended up winning 2 out of 3 of those sessions, which netted an overall win of about $450. So with that, I decided to go ahead and try recording at my most recent session, and I'm really glad that I did. I ended up having my biggest winning session to date since I started playing poker again 2 months ago, and I've since won back everything and more that I lost from those earlier sessions, those losing sessions. So with that, let's take a look at my latest session.
For the first hand I want to show from this session, I've got 7-6 offsuit on the button. Pre-flop, there's an under the gun raise to $6. Middle position player calls, and I call from the button. The big blind calls as well. The pot's $25. The flop comes ace jack 4 with 2 hearts. It checks around to me, so I decide to see if I can steal it in position. I bet $15, and only the under the gun player calls. The pot's now $55. The turn brings the ace of clubs. I decide to try for a second barrel here and bet $30. When I get called again, it's pretty clear the player wants to get to showdown, and I'm totally giving up on the hand at this point. The river brings the ace of diamonds. I check, and you can hear me say,
No, I don't think you're going to fold.
Probably not.
my opponent shows the case ace for quads. No way I'm winning that one. The next big hand I'm involved in is a PLO bomb pot. I'm dealt ace 10-9 with 2 hearts. There's 9 players to the flop, and the pot is $45. The flop comes 6 ace king with 2 spades on top, and 8-7-5 with 2 diamonds on bottom. I flop top set on the top board and an open-end straight draw on the bottom. There's a flush draw on both boards though, and I'm not drawing to either of them. The player to my right bets $20. I call, and the player to my immediate left bets the pot, $125. Another player in late position goes all in for slightly more, and when it folds back to me, I go all in for my remaining $145. The pot's now $480. The turn brings the 9 of clubs on top and the queen of diamonds on bottom. Even though the 9 hits my hand doesn't improve since I'm still playing both aces. The queen of diamonds likely has me drawing dead on the bottom board, so I'm hoping for a clean river on the top board. The river brings the 9 of diamonds on top and the queen of spades on bottom. When the 9 comes on the river, I've got the absolute nuts. No one can have quads since I'm holding a 9. I take half the main pot for $240.
Okay, and then you guys are chopping the mid. How's it not that easy?
For this next hand, I've got ace king offsuit. The under the gun player raises $12, and the second player to act calls. I re-raise to $50. It folds around, and I scoop the pot without a flop.
Alright, so now we can play it.
Thank you.
The next big hand I play is a PLO bomb pot. I'm dealt 6-5-4-3 with 2 diamonds. There's 8 players to the flop. I'm in middle position with $230. The flop comes ace 2-4 on top and 10-4-7 with spades on the bottom. I flop the absolute nuts on the top board with the redraw to a higher straight. Nothing on the bottom. I've got nothing on the bottom but a pair of fours at this point. I'm just playing for the top board. The early position player bets $25. The player after him calls, and I call with the hope of a safe turn before putting more pressure on, and a fourth player calls as well. The pot's now $140. The turn brings the 10 of clubs on top and the 4 diamonds on bottom. My hand on bottom improves to trips, though I imagine I'm losing to a flush still at this point. My hand on top is still the nuts, and I'm planning to play for stacks at this point. It checks to me, and I bet the pot for $140. The player after me bets pot going all in. A third player goes all in for less as well, and I call with my remaining $60. The main pot's $540 at this point. The river brings the jack of diamonds on top and the 7 of clubs on bottom. My hand is no longer the nuts on top, but given the play, it's hard to assume my opponents would show up with king-queen here. My hand doesn't improve on bottom, so I'm expecting to win half the pot here most of the time. One opponent mucks his hand after the other opponent shows queen 8 5-3 with 2 clubs, no spades. He's got the same straight as me on the top board, but my trips are good on the bottom board, meaning I win 3/4 of the pot for $405.
That's crazy.
Thank you.
This next hand I've got ace king of spades. On the first to act, I raise to $10. The player to my left puts in a small re-raise to $20, and I decide to just call when it folds around to me to play a little bit trickier. The pot's $43. The flop comes queen jack jack. I check to my opponent, who checks behind. The turn brings the 8 of clubs. I lead for $15 and my opponent calls. The pot's now $73. The river brings the 8 of hearts. It's a scary board for me, but it's a scary board for my opponent as well. Given his play, I think it's more likely that I have a jack or queen in my hand than he does. I lead for $20 and my read is right, and he ends up folding. The very next hand, I'm dealt the exact same hand, ace king of spades again. The end of the gun player straddles for $25, and I'm first to act because of the straddle. I immediately raise to $75, and everyone shows respect and folds around. I win the straddle and blinds with no flop.
That is a $75.
Thank you.
This next hand is a PLO bomb pot again. I'm dealt 9-8-8-5 with 2 spades. There's 9 players to the flop, and I'm in late position. The flop comes ace 5 king, all spades on top, and 3-8 jack, all clubs on bottom. I've got an okay flush on the top board and second set on the bottom board. There's definitely a chance I'm behind on one of these boards, but I think there's a decent chance I'm good on one of them, and I'm planning to continue for now. The early position player bets pot for $45. I call along with 2 other players, bringing the pot to $225. The turn brings the 10 of hearts on top and the 6 of diamonds on bottom. My hand doesn't improve on either board, but it doesn't get worse either. I'm still planning to continue at this point. The early position player bets pot for $225 with $30 behind. Another player calls all in, and I push all in over the top. The first player calls for his last $30, and the pot's now $900. My opponents declare their hands. We see one player show down ace queen 4-2 with queen high club flush, and it turns out my flush is good on the top board, as the other players are both playing flushes on the bottom board as well. I'm expecting to take at least half the pot, and I'm hoping the river pairs the board on bottom for the scoop. The river brings the 9 of hearts on top and the 4 of diamonds on bottom. We don't see the board pair as hoped, but I'm still happy to win half the pot for $450. For this next hand, I've got king 9 offsuit in the small blind. There's a $5 straddle and 2 callers, and I decide to call as well. The pot's $22. The flop brings jack 5 king with 2 clubs. I bet $15 with my top pair, and I get 1 caller. The pot's now $52. The turn brings the queen of spades. It's a little scary, but I still lead for $30, and the same player calls again. The pot's now $112. The river brings in the king of diamonds, giving me trips, which I assume at this point might be the best hand. I check, giving my opponent a chance to bluff. Unfortunately, he checks behind, and I show down my hand for the win.
Thank you.
The next hand is a PLO bomb pot. I've got ace 8-8-3 rainbow. There's 9 players to the flop. The flop comes queen 3-8 with 2 spades on top and 6 jack jack rainbow on bottom. I flop middle set on top, although the 3 pairing my hand as well means that I have fewer outs and less of a chance of hitting a boat. It's a rainbow board, meaning I'm not worried about a flush draw. I'm just hoping no one has pocket queens for a bigger set. I check to start, and the player to my left bets pot for $45. 5 players call, including myself. The pot's now $315. The turn brings the 3 of hearts on top and the 4 clubs on bottom. I pick up the boat, and although I hopefully don't need it, I have redraws to quad 8s and quad 3s. The first player to act goes all in for $190. The next player to act calls with $15 left behind. I call as well, not to scare out the player behind me, who ends up going all in. Everyone calls, and there's no more action. The pot's now $1,405. While the dealer's counting the chips, we all share our hands. We see an Ace-9-6-6 for a boat on bottom, Jack-10-5-2 for trips on bottom, and King-King-Jack-9 for trips on bottom. All 3 players are playing for the bottom board. My boat is good on the top board as long as we can fade a king on the river. The river brings the 10 of spades on top and the 2 of hearts on bottom. I fade the king, and I win the top board with 8s full of 3s for $700.
Whew. We'll make a deal. I'll trade you my run bad for all the chips.
I get the run bad?
You get the run
Good
bad.
deal, good deal. How can I resist?
You had the world on both boards, didn't you?
No, I had the 8s full and bottom, and then I had the 3 3s also, so I could have hit quads on either of those, but I didn't need it. I just need to avoid the king.
The last interesting hand I have for the day is another PLO bomb pot. I've got King-9-5-3 with 2 clubs. There's 9 players to the flop. The flop comes 7-4 ace, all clubs on top, and 3-2-9 rainbow on bottom. I flop an okay flush on the top board and 2 pair on the bottom board. I decide this is strong enough to make a bet to see where I stand. I bet the pot for $45 and only one other player calls. The pot's now $135. The turn brings the 8 of clubs on top and the ace of diamonds on bottom. My hand doesn't improve on either board, although the fact that I'm seeing another club means there's less of a chance that my opponent has a flush there. My opponent checks to me and seems quite hesitant. I bet $125, and after my table chastises me for not betting the pot in this game, my opponent reluctantly calls. The pot's now $285. The river brings the 10 of diamonds on top and the queen of spades on bottom. Again, no improvement to my hand on either board. My opponent checks to me again, though, and I bet $150. He thinks for a very long time, which makes me think my hand must be good on at least one board, if not both. He eventually ends up calling, and I quickly show my hand. He mucks his hand, and I scoop the pot for $585.
Unless you got his running back. Didn't you get his running back?
I didn't accept the offer of the run bad.
Pretty freaking pumped right now. It was an awesome session. It was kind of slow to start. I bought in for 150, kind of dwindled down there, and then and lost an all-in at the end there. So rebought for another 150. Ended up building that up to $1,355 is what I cashed out for. So $1,055 in winnings, not counting my my hourly membership costs. So came out way ahead, thankfully. I really needed that. It was a good boost to the ego after having those few losing sessions that kind of made me take a short break from the game. But you know, I really felt like those losing sessions, I just had a lot of bad variance on many of the hands. You know, losing in spots where I was 80 plus, 90 plus % to win, bad rivers, things like that. You know, obviously I had some bad play mixed in there too, or bad hands or what have you. But you know, some of those big hands that I should have been winning, I didn't win. So it just feels good to have that win. You know, reinforces how I was feeling about my play previously. And I'm looking forward to kind of getting back into it a little bit. Feels great to come back from being down so much over so many sessions to having some winning sessions again. And it's especially nice to have my biggest winning session to date take place. I don't want to let that cast a shadow over any lessons to take away from the losing sessions that I had, though. And with that, you know, I think there's probably 2 big things that I walked away with that'll change how I approach some future sessions. So first, I just wanted to call out that, you know, my biggest losing session out of the ones that I mentioned was for about $650. So I lost $650 in one day, which is well beyond an amount that I realized I'm comfortable losing in one day. So I think a number closer to about $300 is something that is easier for me to swallow, and I don't intend to buy in for more than that in a single day or a single session going forward. So, or at least until my poker bankroll grows and I can reassess it at some point in the future if I'm willing to take any bigger risk there. I've also found that buying in for closer to $150 each time that I buy in, which is admittedly not a typical amount for 1-2 no limit. I think people typically buy in for closer to either $200 or $300. I think $300 I'd say is the most common. But $150 is an amount that I'm comfortable with financially and makes me play a bit more conservatively at the beginning of my sessions, I found. And when I play conservatively at the beginning, it gives me the chance to warm up to a table, allows me to identify patterns of other players, at which point I feel a bit more comfortable having a little bit of a deeper stack in front of me. So that's the first lesson that I'm taking away from it. And then second, in reviewing some of my hands from the losing sessions, I found that there's some spots where I'm overplaying, I think bomb pot PLO hands in particular. So I'm going to be a little bit more conservative going forward on those types of hands. I'm going to be more willing to fold some of those bigger hands, even when you have like a set or a straight. Those things can be broken by bigger sets, bigger straights, or like paired boards against a straight, things like that. And I think more than anything, or on top of that, I should say, I'm going to be more willing to check instead of betting in some spots, or bet smaller. Don't necessarily bet pot, even though I found that when people bet in those pots, it's in those hands, in those bomb pot hands, it's typically for the full pot amount. And I think it's okay to bet less than pot, probably by a significant amount. So I think, those are probably my biggest two takeaways. There's probably some more lessons to be learned there, and I'm going to continue to reflect on it. But I didn't want to, just walk away from those losing sessions with nothing learned. So thanks for taking the time to listen. Hopefully, it was a little bit of a learning opportunity for you, if nothing else, entertaining at least. Please, I encourage you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I know I hate when people ask that in their videos, but it does help to get people interested in the videos. It helps the YouTube search algorithm. And it encourages me to get more videos out. So if you could do that, I really appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Thanks.